freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 448 of Gun Freedom Radio, where we engage, we educate, and we inform. We are brought to you by azfirearmsauctions.com, where you set the price on guns, ammo, and accessories. I am one of your hosts, Cheryl Todd.
And I'm the other guy, Dan Todd. Our theme today, I don't like saying this, the politics of law. They don't go together, but anyway, that's our theme today. And our guest today is Jerry Sheridan. Jerry is a constitutional conservative Republican and understands that the role of sheriff, besides keeping people safe, is to serve the people in protecting the Constitution, people's liberties and freedoms, including gun rights. Jerry is a member of the Constitutional Sheriff and Peace Officers Association, and he is a 2024 candidate for Maricopa County Sheriff.
Well, welcome back to the show, Jerry.
Well, thank you, Cheryl and Dan. You know, it's been 4 years. Can you imagine? Time flies since I've been on your show. And some things have changed, some things have not. And we're running for sheriff again. We're going to get it done this time.
You were like, I mean, there was barely any daylight between you and the other guy, I think, with your votes last time. Am I remembering correctly?
Well, yes, you're remembering incorrectly, actually. He did beat me, pretty good.
Okay, I guess I'm remembering it wrong, but because at the time, of course, we were voting for you because you were the constitutional guy.
I have a theory about that.
Yeah, you want to share?
Right. But we found out in 2020 that 250,000 Republicans in Maricopa County never turned their ballots in, or they didn't get received by the county, whichever way you want to look at it. Mm-hmm. So, it was easier for me to understand why I lost to the Democrat if 250,000 Republicans.
Yeah, you're freezing a little bit, but if they stayed home, then, I guess we get what we get.
Their ballots. And, the theory is that they weren't top of the ticket and state Republican parties and some NGOs like Turning Point are putting a lot of people's tables, kitchen tables. Yeah. So we're gonna win this time.
I love it. Well, who's your little friend there that you've got with you?
This is Mr. Thompson.
Hello, Mr. Thompson. Very handsome.
And this is a real one. This isn't a remake. This is a 1921 Colt. Colt made the first run of Thompson's, as you know, because the holder of the patent didn't have a factory, so they went to Colt to make them. And that means a lot to me because I'm a huge Colt fan, a collector. I'm a member of the Colt collection, society. I've got tons of them, and this isn't the oldest one. I have one, a single action Army in 4440 that was made in 1901.
Very cool.
I love old guns. There's nothing like them. They're all handmade. All this was done. Some guy sat at a lathe and cut those fins in that barrel, and and it shoots. I shoot all my guns too. They're not safe queens.
Yes.
This gun gets shot, and I've been waiting for you guys to come out. And so we can play.
We definitely need to do that. And you have another little friend there with you, I believe.
I do. And I just brought these here onto the show just to let everybody know I do believe in the Second Amendment.
From
As
the
you can
inside
imagine.
out, right?
From the
Absolutely.
inside out. And that's where this gun comes in. Okay.
Okay.
So I'll tell a little story before I bring it up. I was born and raised in New York City. My dad and my uncles were New York City cops. And growing up in Queens, you're not allowed to have guns in New York. Even it's a hard time for cops to even buy a gun, an extra gun.
Mm-hmm.
So when my dad had some free time, he took my brother shooting and I. And he was good friends with the guys that ran the police range in Throgs Neck. And so on Sunday afternoons when Dad was not working, he would take us shooting. And I think I was maybe 12 when I got to shoot this gun here for the first time.
Oh,
And
wow.
this is a Smith & Wesson model 76 submachine gun that the Navy asked the Smith & Wesson to design a gun that was cheap and reliable for the SEALs to use in Vietnam. And this is a gun they came up with. So when we would go shooting on Sunday afternoons, the guys at the range would bring out their Smith & Wessons because they're emergency services, which most of us would understand as SWAT, this was the gun that they were using at the time. This was like before the MP5, and I have one of those too. But this is before the MP5 came out, and it's 9mm, and it shoots so well and sweet. It's simple.
I love it.
And it's actually one of my favorite guns, and probably because of the value that it has.
Yes.
And I find he has gun. Thought about 40 years ago, and I told Tony, I said, "Do you ever sell that to anybody else other than me?" And I'm gonna be. Tony passed away a couple years ago, so his wife Eileen, we've been very good friends. She called me and she says, "Hey, Jerry says I want you to have Tony's Mount 76. I know you've been drooling over that for 40 years." And
wow.
So that's how I got it. Of course, I had to wait 11 months for the paperwork to come through. You know how that goes, right?
Sure.
So I enjoy this gun. It was hardly ever shot. It was almost like brand new. And but it's getting shot now. Well, I can smell it. The gunpowder.
Jerry,
man,
so
it's beautiful in its simplicity. Go ahead,
I sold all my machine guns and I'm sad now. So I guess I'm going to have to come and shoot those.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. And their value is just crazy. I mean, it's a much better investment than gold or diamond or platinum or anything because of the lack of availability and the desire, that how that works,
Yeah,
supply and
absolutely.
demand.
Supply and demand.
Well,
Yeah.
Jerry, we know that you are a gun guy and that you think that you believe in the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what's going to push you through to make it this time is we could just let the people know that you are a constitutional guy and that you'll honor the Constitution, which is rare, especially in Maricopa County right now.
Well,
Right.
and so what I want to kind of ask you to clarify for our listening audience, because we have people all across, not just this state, but across the nation and actually across the world. A lot of people don't understand that there's a very unique distinction to being a sheriff, and it's a unique law enforcement position and very different from other leadership positions in law enforcement. Can you kind of
Yes.
define that for us?
Certainly. The sheriff is an elected official. The sheriff is the only elected law enforcement officer in the country. And not every state, Alaska, believe it or not, doesn't have sheriffs, which I found that very unique. So, but the other states, there's 3,300 sheriffs across the country. Here in Arizona, the counties are there. We have 15 of them. And so there's 15 sheriffs in Arizona. And the sheriff, being an elected official, is responsible only to the people. The sheriff is not responsible to the board of supervisors or the governor or the president of the United States. That's what makes it so unique.
Mm-hmm. I mean, how brilliant,
And
really, of
the difference between that and a police chief, for example, the chief is the, so it froze up there for a second. I'm sorry. So the police chief is responsible to the city manager, a bureaucrat who's responsible to the elected officials. So, it's not the same. And Sheriff Richard Mack, I think you're probably familiar with him. He started the CSPOA.
mm-hmm.
During the administration, he took on over the Brady law of, with firearms and trying to put, of course, the feds sued him. And so it went all the way up to the United States Supreme Court, and he won that case. And basically, the United States Supreme Court said that the sheriff was the chief law enforcement officer of the county and responsible to no one. Now, I will add no one but the people in that county.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay. And so that's how it works. And that's what gives the sheriff a unique opportunity to do what is right, not what he's told to do. And that's the way I will approach things.
Very good. And so to my next question, I think that's the perfect lead in, that it seems to us, at least, that there is a lot of evidence that the federal government has been weaponizing the Department of Justice, the DOJ, right, and other three-letter agencies against the citizens. It sounds like a sheriff can stand in that gap. I don't know that many are, but if you're a constitutional sheriff, it seems like citizens would have a better shot at having a sheriff stand in that gap. What do you say about all of that?
I say I agree. There's a lot of very weak sheriffs out there that don't understand their responsibilities. And I'll give you a good example. About 2 weeks ago, I was asked to be a guest speaker on a Zoom call in Alabama with a constitutional group. Okay. So one of the funny things about it was I didn't know I was going to be the guest speaker. I thought it was just a little, 5-minute interview. And when I got on there, I said, okay, you've got an hour. So I stood there in the parking lot in Sun City. Stop. So I can talk. Sometimes you might need to shut me up. So what I found out, what reminded me about that was we were talking about Alabama, right? And I'm thinking very conservative state. They've got conservative sheriffs. And when it came to the question and answer, they were asking me questions about, well, how do we train our sheriffs to be constitutional? I said, what do you mean? He said, they're not. No, they're not. And them to a couple of the constitutional organizations they get involved with. Well, what if they don't do that? And I said, well, then vote them out of office and find one and elect a sheriff that is a constitutional. And the whole room, there was over 150 people, and just went crazy. And I'm thinking, I talked to the woman that set it up for me after, and she said, you would be shocked how many sheriffs here are not constitutional.
Yes.
And I was. But there is a movement across the country right now. So sheriffs are starting to wake up. And a good example is in Albuquerque, if you remember a few months back, the governor said that, Albuquerque was a health emergency zone and you can't carry firearms in city limits anymore. The sheriff there in Bernalillo County, he goes, whoa, governor. No, doesn't work that way. That's unconstitutional. You cannot do that. And you know what the thing is? He's a Democrat. I didn't realize that. I actually looked it up. because I thought, you know,
Couldn't believe it.
yeah, because he certainly didn't act like one. You know what he acted like? He acted like a sheriff,
Yeah.
and that's what sheriffs should do. And so it's starting to spread out, you know, with Sheriff Mack and Randy Miller. I don't know if you know Randy or not. He's got another organization, and they're starting to get sheriffs educated on what it's all about. And I'm very proud to have both of their endorsements. And they understand that I know the Constitution, and I will also not be afraid to act on this. And the main reason for that is, don't tell anybody, but unlike most politicians, I don't care if I get reelected. I am going to do the right thing. And I will always do the right thing like I always have. And if that costs me an election because the county's too woke or whatever, so be it. Because the sheriff has to stand on the Constitution, enforcing the rule of law, protecting in this county, 4.6 million people, and always should do the right thing. And that's what I'm all about.
So Jerry,
Not about getting reelected.
Right. Can you remind the people of how you've served the community in the past years?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we probably should have started with that, right? So I worked for the sheriff's office for 40 years. I was 18 years old. We moved here from New York City, and I joined the sheriff's office probably about 3 months later. You could be a sworn officer back then in 1976 at 18. So I joined as a volunteer deputy sheriff. I got sworn in when I was 18 years old. And I did that as a volunteer for a little bit, for about 1.5 years. Then I went to work in the jail as a detention officer. And then next 38 years I spent in deputy sheriff uniform with deputy sheriff patch on my sleeve. And I loved my job. And I worked my way up from being as they used to say, a slick sleeve deputy sheriff to a corporal and a sergeant. Chief over the patrol county, and I spent running. I'll talk about critical, and the chief deputy did that the last 6 years. But let me go back to the 12 years I spent running the jail system, and that's critical because 75% of the sheriff's function here in Maricopa County is that jail system. 75% of the budget is that jail system. And that jail system right now is on the verge of collapse. I had a phone call 1.5 weeks ago from somebody and said, you know, Chief, we are one inmate fight away from total anarchy in this jail system. They're supposed to have 2,200 employees. They have just a little over 1,000. They're that short. And so they're on mandatory overtime. They have been losing about 49 inmates a year, and dying. They've been dying in custody, 49 a year. And so that's about 350 since they took over in January 2017. And as a barometer of when I was running the show, we averaged about 7 a year. And I thought, you know what, 7 is 7 too many, you know, because again, the sheriff is responsible for the safety and security, that what we say in the jailing business, the care, custody, and control of those people is your responsibility also. It's not just the citizens out on the street, it's also those inmates. And we had, at one time, we had 12,000 inmates. I think they only have about 7,000. So, you know, that's critical. And you can bet your bippy. I just watched an old laugh-in video the other day on YouTube. It was funny. And so you can bet your bippy that those 49 lawsuits are lawsuits. Those 49 deaths become lawsuits, because I know, because we were sued for every one of the 7 that we had. And, you know, maybe that's why the sheriff skedaddled out a year early. He quit in January. And I don't know. I don't know the reason, but I can speculate that and a couple other issues that, he was scared something was going to happen. So, and that's a very distinct possibility because it is unheard of. You know who Bernie Carrick is, right? Bernie
Yes.
Carrick was the police commissioner in New York City. I've been talking to him. He's wanting to help me with the campaign. And when I told him that they average 49 deaths a year in custody, he flipped out. Because remember, before he was the police commissioner, he ran Rikers Island. He ran the New York City, jail system.
Oh, wow.
And
I
he
don't
said,
think I
Jerry, he
realized
said,
that.
if we had 5 deaths a year, he said they were all over me.
Wow.
So that just gives you a scale of what's going on
Yes.
here. And
Yes.
sheriff's office needs somebody back there. The citizens need somebody back there that know how to do that system. And I do because I spent 12 years as the chief.
Mm-hmm.
I oversaw the design and construction of the 4th Avenue Jail, the Lower Buckeye Jail, had to hire thousands of officers to staff those facilities, build an infrastructure. And just to give you the people an idea of how big that system is, when we built a kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
we built a freezer with it the size of a football field. We were
Whoa.
serving at that time, we were serving 30,000 meals a day.
Wow.
It is a big system. It's like either the 3rd or 4th largest county jail in the country. We're always kind of neck and neck with Houston. So it's a major operation undertaking. And there's 5 candidates right now. I'll plug myself for a second. There's 5 candidates running for sheriff right now. There's 3 Republicans, 2 Democrats. There's only one that has the experience to run 75% of that office. And that's because I did do it, and that's me. And I know that system inside and out. I designed that system that they're still using. And
Wow.
I can come in and make an impact from the day I get there. It won't take me 2 years to learn about that, about the Melendres lawsuit or any of the other things that are how complex the sheriff's office is. They're supposed to have 4,000 employees. They're about 1,500 short.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
ask me why that is.
Why is that?
Oh, good question. I'm glad you asked. That's because there's been a lack of leadership there since January of 2017. Law enforcement people don't want to work for a weak leader. There's no shortage of young people that want to get into law enforcement. There's no shortage of young people that want to join our military. They just don't want to work for a weak leader. And I think, I'll just say my opinion is I think we have a weak commander-in-chief in Washington, D.C. And I'm being nice. And we also had a weak leader in the sheriff that took over from us. And there's one in particular, probably the most famous one of them all. He was a sergeant with us. His name was Frank Sloop. Did you ever watch Fridays with Frank?
Oh, yeah.
Does.
People, okay. Frank was a sergeant with us. Matter of fact, in Maricopa County. The last day I rode in my uniform was December 30th, 2016. I rode with Frank and a DUI task force. Frank was a super trooper, sergeant. Frank quit in 2017, probably in September, October, took us stripes off, gave us stripes off, and went to go work for Mark Lamb, the sheriff in Pinell County, a very good, strong leader. Dozens and dozens of Maricopa County Sheriff's deputies quit, took a cut in pay to go work for him.
I believe it.
And that's what MCSO needs to get back on track. It's the people at MCSO that asked me to run for the 2020 race and again in the 2024 race. I've got endorsement of the Arizona Police Association, which is about 20-something law enforcement agencies. I don't remember the number of the membership, but it's a lot. It's over 10,000 that have endorsed me. And Tom Homan, you know who Tom Homan is? Tom Homan was the director of ICE for President Trump.
Oh, yes. I've met him.
He gave me a great endorsement, and so I have the backing of law enforcement and my own people, the deputies, the detention officers, and civilians that work there want me back, and that's the only reason I'm doing this. I've got a great retirement after 40 years. I didn't think I was going to run for sheriff, and all of that. And sorry about the dog. Can you hear the dog barking?
Barely. No worries about it.
Okay, good, because he's louder in my ears then. So this is something that I want to do. Turn the sheriff's office around. I'd like to run for 2 terms, groom them, get them trained up so they could take over and continue with making sure the sheriff is a constitutional conservative that keeps people safe. And I was invited to a meet and greet on Sunday, and when I got there, I would say that 3/4 of the group were Democrats.
Wow.
And so I went and did it anyway. And I told them, I says, I'm a constitutional conservative. And you could hear the groans in the audience, right? And I said, that should not scare you.
No.
Matter of fact, you should be happy, because the Constitution protects everyone. Everyone in this county, in this country, regardless of your political bend, regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of the religion. And you could see they asked me questions about, well, are you going to work with ICE? And I said, yes. Well, I got kind of beat up by a couple of younger ladies in the group. They kind of started yelling at me. And matter of fact, the guy that put it on, there was like 200 people there. The guy that put that on, he had to go grab them and pull them out because they got a little bit nasty with me. But as a sheriff, you're a sheriff for everybody. And that's the way I see it. And that's what the Constitution does.
Absolutely.
I am worried about this election because there is no talk anywhere about sheriffs in Maricopa County. We don't hear anything. The officers feel weak because there's no leadership. But when we go to the voting polls, there's not enough information out there for people to know who to vote for. And I'm worried that they're just going to check a name, and that we've got to find a way to get the voice out there that, hey, we're a constitutional person. The Constitution's for everybody. And those people that were moaning at your group, deep inside, they want law and order. They want law and order, but they're afraid to buck with it. So I think that they're going to argue with you a little bit, but when it comes down to voting, if they know that there's a constitutional sheriff that wants to be elected, I think they're going to vote for him. But how do we get that message to them?
Well, that's where I hate to say it, but campaign donations come in, right? Because if the media kind of shadow bans us, then we have to do it on our own. Okay. So those campaign signs everybody sees, and they are kind of disgusting because they litter the place for months prior to elections, but that's why they're important. Yard signs are important. These meet and greets of people in the neighborhoods, I've got 2 of them today. We just go where people open their homes, and people go to those that don't go to the legislative district meetings or the Republican club meetings. They're the general public, and they get to hear from us directly and take our signs, put it in their yard. That's important. But all that takes money. Social media is a big thing. I've probably got over 25,000 followers in social media. And what will bring me through this time is all the effort that I put in the 2020 race. people know me. I voted for you in 2020. Some even recognize me by face. And I'll tell this great story because it's a gun related story. So I was going in, I had that 1901 Colt single action Army, and it didn't feel right, when you pull the hammer back. And so I took it down to a gun store in Central Phoenix. Can I, Bob James is like the quintessential Colt single action Army in the country. He's the guy. So I took it down there and I walk into the legendary firearms in Phoenix, and there's this kid behind the counter, where the old cowboy guns are. And of course I get attracted to that right away. And he's a Hispanic kid, probably in his 20s, got long hair. You're not the typical, stereotype we see behind the counter in a gun store.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks at me and he goes, "Sheriff Sheridan, oh my God, is that really you?" And he comes around the counter and I look at his name tag and I says, "Hey, give me a hug." It is a support and recognize my face, which is kind of my face now. So we're doing everything we can. We're raising money. We are getting the advertisements out. I won't tell you what it is because I know some of my competitors probably watch your show. And but we're really hitting it, and we're gonna win this time. And I'm gonna be the next sheriff and start to take over and change things for the better, for not only for the people that work there, but for the people in this county.
Mm-hmm.
The day I get there, I won't have to wait 2 years to figure out which way is up.
Yeah, no, that is wonderful. And, to have that kind of connection with
Okay.
just
It looks like you're frozen there.
Yes, there's been a little bit of that going on, but I'm just powering through, and if we have to do an edit, then we will, but I think we're okay so far.
I'm so sorry. I live out in a very rural area. I've got 5 acres out here with our horses and our dogs and all that. And so it's a satellite internet. And so normally it's pretty good, but for some reason, of course, today it had to start to act up.
Of course, that's the Murphy's Law. I do want to touch before we run out of time or we freeze indefinitely. Things like red flag laws, those are something that are very frightening because they sound like they make so much sense. And, a lot of, politicians, a lot of citizens get this head bob going like, oh, yes, red flag laws make sense because we keep guns out of the hands of the mentally unstable. So, yes, but actually that it doesn't do that at all. And it is a gun confiscation scheme, whether it's at a state level, it's a federal level. They've got this whole office now of, I guess basically bribing states with money if they will adopt certain red flag law policies and so forth. Talk to our listeners about that whole topic and what a sheriff can do with that situation.
Well, there's no doubt. It's very clear to me that red flag laws are unconstitutional. They confiscate our property without a warrant. Fourth Amendment, right? 14th Amendment are all violated with red flag laws. And and the bottom line is this is what the federal government has been doing to us gun owners for decades. And that is the little baby steps. Oh, this is only as far this we have to do this for safety, and at the gun shows, and they want to change all the rules. Oh, this makes eminent sense, doesn't it? Oh, let's, stop, enough. What part of shall not be infringed don't they understand? And
there it is.
Sorry, I'm getting a little bit angry.
No,
but it
fine.
really pisses me off because the Democrats and they like to drape themselves in the Constitution when it suits them and disregard people's constitutional rights when it doesn't. And so
Absolutely.
it doesn't work that way. It is the supreme law of the land, BS, because let's face it, okay? Let's say you're my neighbor. You're the got the next 5 acres over. And I'm pissed at you because you started farming pigs and the wind's blowing this way. And that really makes me mad. So I can call up and I could say, you know what? Cheryl was out here ranting and raving and, saying she's going to come over and shoot me.
Yep.
To the deputies that show up. Well, if there's red flag laws, they can just go over and take your guns because they think you're a danger to yourself or the public. No, it doesn't work that way. There's the due process part.
Yes.
Of confiscating guns or any property from anybody. And, that needs to be part of the process.
Absolutely.
That's, the founding fathers, when they put our Constitution and our Bill of Rights together, they had to be divine. Here we are, all these years later, discussed, finally held us together. As long as we can elect people that believe in it and protect it. Don't forget, we all take an oath. Every elected politician takes that oath to protect the Constitution of the United States. And as sheriff, I will take the oath to protect the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona. So, those words mean something to me. And unfortunately, they don't always mean officials.
Yeah.
That is so true and so sad that it is that way. Well, as we just close out here, please tell folks, how they can continue to follow the work you do, support your campaign. We all know that campaigns run on people power and money power, and give people kind of the rules, like what happens in one county affects another, what happens in one state affects another. So if people are listening and they're not particularly in Maricopa County, can they still help you?
Yes, absolutely. So let me start by saying that who the voters here in Maricopa County pick as their sheriff has an impact not only in Maricopa County or Arizona, but in the country. People say, well, why is that, Jerry? Well, that's because Maricopa County has the largest Republican voting bloc in the nation.
Wow.
And so as Maricopa County goes, in the 2020 election, President Trump didn't lose by much. And a lot of people called into question whether or not there was a legitimate election and all that. And I can tell you as a sheriff, I will be keen on making sure that our election process is pure and done correctly and that there's no fraud. And if I do find any, I will absolutely investigate it and have it prosecuted. So who the sheriff is in Maricopa County does have a big impact, considering the voting here and the impact it can have on a national scale. So if you like what you heard about me being a constitutional sheriff, you can go to my website and it's www.Sheridan, the number 4 sheriff 2024 Maricopa County. There's also a way to volunteer and sign up or ask for a yard sign, which is a great way to help. And if everybody that listened donated 25 bucks, I would have more than enough money to do what I need to do. And it's kind of like, look what happened, with President Trump when they found him guilty in that whole sham thing. And he raised over $50 million in like 24 hours from people that were donating 20, 25 bucks.
Yes. Makes a
And that's
difference.
what it takes. I mean, the maximum, of course, I would never turn down the maximum amount somebody wants, or what, $13,000 for a couple. That's okay. I'll take that too. But 20 bucks, 25 bucks, 100 bucks, whatever people can donate to the campaign. And I don't use that to put gas in my truck. And I have a big dually pickup truck that I drive around most of the time. And I probably put it in at least $100 worth of gas a week, at least. And I pay for that out of my pocket. I don't take the funds out of my campaign money to pay for that. That's my contribution, other than the 7 days a week, 12 hours a day days. But somebody I'm courting to maybe be a donor, deep pocket donor, I'll take them out to lunch or something. I pay for that out of my pocket. A lot of people running for office use the contributions people gave them as a slush fund for their own private whatever. There was one a few years ago that I heard the story that this guy bought brand new set of tires on his truck with the money that donors gave him, and I that goes against my morals, and I would never do that. And so what I use it for is signs, radio ads, billboards, social media, all the things that I need to do to advertise what I'm all about to the people that don't get out to the meetings. And that's where that money will be used.
Jerry, one more time, could you get that www
Yeah.
thing so that, because you
Yes.
broke up, so.
Oh, I did, sorry.
Yeah.
www.sheridan2024.com.
Perfect. All right. Well,
How's
thank
that?
you. Thank you, sir. You cut out again, but you know what? It's on our guest page, your guest page on our website, and I will say it again once we hang up. So no worries at all. Thank you so much for this time. Thank you for your service to our nation, because as you said, we're in the 4th largest county in the nation, and what happens here very much impacts the rest of the country.
It does.
And best of luck with your campaign, and we will be checking back in with you.
All right, and I'll invite you before I get elected sheriff to come out and shoot. It's a little hot right now.
Yeah.
Or as sheriff, let's go out and we'll go play. And
absolutely,
because I know somebody next to you has been dying to
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah.
to shoot
so
Thompson,
true.
and we're gonna have a good time.
Awesome.
So
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Jerry
Bye-bye.
Sheridan. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
I know we've had a little bit of scrambling there and some dead space, but
Yeah.
Jerry is a great guy. You can go to our website and at Gun Freedom Radio, and you can see the information on how to donate to him.
And let's just say it. Sheridan, it's his last name. Sheridan, the number 4, Sheriff 2024.com. Okay,
Yeah.
we got it all out without glitching.
Right. And the thing is, no matter what, we need a constitutional guy to be elected for sheriff, because that is super important for us.
It
So
really matters. And again, a lot of people don't even know that they vote for sheriff. It's like the judges, there's this whole list of judges that we're supposed to vote for here in Arizona. What do we know about them unless you've had personal experience right in their courtroom, or them personally? Like, how do we vote on these kinds of offices? So hopefully the information we've provided here today will help people with that.
even if I was a criminal, I would want to have a constitutional person arrest me because I'm protected. Yes. So it doesn't matter if you're a criminal or not. You want to be protected.
When he was talking about the number of deaths in custody. So if you're a criminal and you're going into custody, would you prefer to go into a jail system where there are higher numbers of deaths, that you might be in more danger or less danger? So, I mean, really, it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a Democrat, a libertarian, a Republican, you should seek out a person who is grounded and rooted in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights that was written for all of us, right?
Right.
Fantastic. All right. Well, we need to start wrapping up. I know that as a listening and viewing experience, it's a little rough. There was quite a bit of glitching. I so apologize for that. But thank you for hanging in there with us. Sometimes that's just, the nature of Zoom and the nature of Wi-Fi. But thank you so much to all of our amazing viewers and listeners. And wherever there's internet on the planet, we have viewers and listeners. Your time is your most finite commodity. When you spend it with us, we value it, we notice it. It matters. If you want to go back and watch any portion of this video or any of our videos, of course, you can find them on YouTube until they've kicked us off. They haven't yet. We certainly don't get very many views on there, so I know we're being suppressed. The Gun Streamer is a very YouTube-like video website, and of course, the OpsLens smartphone app. And when you go to these platforms, please, if you will like and subscribe, not only do we personally appreciate it, and not only will you get notified of all of our new content that comes out, but it signals to those platforms that you value the conversations, the subject matter experts that we have on this show. And I think it gives us a little hedge against the cancel culture that is still very vibrant out there, which is such a sad thing to say in the United States of America. So whatever we can do to stay connected with each other, please do those things. The subscribe and the notifier, very important. Okay, now, if you want to find Jerry Sheridan's website or any of the works that any of our guests have ever had and done, we keep a record of those on our website, which is GunFreedomRadio.com. If you want to listen to the audio only version of our shows, you would click the on demand tab and
binge listen to your heart's content, darling.
And if you want to see those works and links and so forth, then you go to the guest tab on our website. It is an ever-growing body of subject matter experts and their works. And when you spend time there, we don't hate that.
Well, Cheryl, it's hot outside and I want to go shooting, but I'm afraid to because every time I go shooting, my hand sweats and I almost drop my gun.
Well, my goodness, if that wasn't the perfect setup for Locked In Grip.
Oh,
It
what's
is
this?
a liquid shooting sports chalk.
Oh, okay.
And it is made for shooters by shooters, made by our very good friends, Brian and Shelley Hill. And it is a no slip, better traction, heightened connection, safer, faster, for safer and faster shooting. It is the superior way to go out to the range, especially if it's hot and humid and you might have, sweaty palms. That happens, right?
Right.
So go to lockedingrip.com, get some for yourself and a good friend.
Well, then after I went shooting, I'm going to be hungry.
Yeah.
And I want some snacks.
Yeah.
And I
Like
really,
these
really
guys
like.
right here.
Oh, those are great. Great.
They-
Yes.
Are you my hype man today?
I don't know. What are these?
So these
Simply
are
Fit. These are really good.
delicious snacks. We love these. We snack on these in between our episodes. And we also buy delicious steaks and ground beef and shampoo and laundry soap. And these things are, American made, proudly made in America. And the only way you can get these is to join an invitation only private shopping club. And this is your invitation from Dan and I directly to you. This shopping club is helping families like ours cut the cord on those huge corporations that use our dollars that we spend there on those items I just mentioned to diminish our freedoms, actively diminishing our freedoms. So, from laundry soap to skincare to those delicious snacks, you can shop online as you need the items or do what I do, set my order and forget it. And it shows up on my doorstep. It could not be any more convenient. Just go to patriothousehold.com/GFR for Gun Freedom Radio. Dan, you're saying something?
Well, I'm just thinking they have toothpaste, right?
They do.
And it's good toothpaste. But I'm thinking, why is it toothpaste? Why isn't it teeth paste? Because
Okay.
it's more than one tooth, right? Or do you just brush one tooth?
I don't. I brush them all.
But you don't have teeth
Oh
paste.
my goodness.
I just-
Thanks for the
just
dad
for a
joke
shower thought.
of
That's a shower
a
thought,
shower thought by Dan
not a
Todd.
dad joke.
You
Why
know-
is it called teeth paste?
I don't know. We will have to look that up. I was going to say Google it, but they are not gun friendly. So we're going to duck go that, right? We're going to look that up online. All right. So it was patriothousehold.com/GFR for Gun Freedom Radio, because we get a tiny piece of every dollar you spend to help enhance our freedoms, right? The other guys are trying to diminish our freedoms. We are working to enhance your freedoms. Also, the Second Amendment Foundation, SAF.org, they get a tiny piece of every dollar you spend to help fuel the lawsuits that they are waging all across this nation. Whenever somebody is infringing on your Second Amendment rights, the Second Amendment Foundation is right there doing their work. patriothousehold.com/GFR. All right, we have got to get on out of here.
We should pray for our nation then.
We're going to pray for our leaders, all of them,
All of them.
even the ones you don't like.
We got to go. So yes.
Maybe especially the ones you don't like.
Let's do it.
Be good to each other. Have a great week and God bless.
Bye-bye.